Actually, it's 6 o'clock now. So our
Going
IT
live.
person will be starting us live.
We're now going live. Okay, welcome everybody to the planning session. This is a public meeting to get the public's concerns or issues that they may have with this planning application. This is actually the applicant's meeting, and Councillor Antosky, my ward mate, is here as well with me, and she'll close out the meeting. But we're just going to start the meeting off, and we're here to listen to what the application is about and answer any of your questions that you may have. This is not a final decision. It's just it's a public process for the public to give us their opinions and concerns and issues that they may have with the development by the proponent. And the proponent will be speaking later on. Staff will make their presentation. The proponent will speak, and then we'll take some questions. Okay. And I'm going to introduce. We have Alexander Mathers, who will be handing this file. We have Casey Pongrass from planning. We have Barb Day from planning, and we have Brad Jolly. Staff. Did I miss anybody? I think I've got everybody there. The agent is Matt Kernahan from Upper Canada Planning will be speaking on behalf of the agent later on. Okay, thank you. All right. Take it away, Alexandra.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. So good evening. My name is Alexandra Mathers, and I am the planner on the file with the City of Brantford. We're here tonight because we've received an application to amend the zoning bylaw for 9 Garden Avenue. This meeting is being streamed on YouTube and will be available for viewing afterward. If you're viewing and have comments or questions that aren't brought forward, please let me know, and I will have them answered by the applicant or myself. As Councillor Carpenter mentioned, this is only the first meeting for this proposal to elicit public feedback for the applicant to take into consideration. The next meeting will be the statutory public meeting required by the Planning Act, presented to the Committee of the Whole. Members of the public will have an opportunity to speak for or against the proposal at that meeting as well. So the proposal is for 9 Garden Avenue. The proposal is to construct 3 blocks of 3-story stacked townhouse dwellings with a total of 32 units. So I'm just going to provide a quick overview of the planning process and how it works, and then I'll pass it on to the applicant, Matt, to present their proposal. So the zoning bylaw amendment is an application required by the Planning Act. The official plan is a framework of goals and objectives that the city provides land use designations and policies which guide future development. The zoning bylaw puts the official plan into effect. It states how land may be used, where buildings and structures can be located, the types of buildings that are permitted, and how they can be used. It also regulates lot sizes, dimensions, parking requirements, building heights, and setbacks from the street. So this property is zoned holding residential medium density type A zone in the zoning bylaw. And the property is designated under the new official plan as neighborhood's residential designation. I'll now pass things on to Matt to provide the applicant's presentation, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions and comments that you may have.
Good evening, Councillors Antosky and Carpenter. My name is Matt Kernahan, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. If it's all right with you, I'd like to just share my screen for a moment and provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Matt.
Can you see anything? So as you've heard, my name is Matt Kernahan, and I'm a planner at Upper Canada Consultants. We are a planning and engineering consulting firm based out of Niagara. On the call with me as well this evening, I have Adam Keene, our engineering manager, and Mr. Dino Mira, who owns the property at 9 Garden Avenue. For the next several minutes, I'm going to share with you some information on our project. Our objective this evening is to present information on our proposed zoning bylaw amendment and receive feedback on the proposal so we can move forward in the process in an informed way. Although I'm sure most of you are familiar with the site and its location, I wanted to share this slide to provide some context for the development proposal. The site itself is approximately 1 1/4 acres. It's roughly rectangular and currently contains one single detached dwelling, a garage, and a shed. The site is located in a neighborhood which contains a good mix of land uses. Immediately surrounding the property, there are the full range of residential land uses, including single detached dwellings throughout the neighborhood, semi-detached immediately across the street, and townhouses to the east and north. The site is well serviced by parks, including Mission and Orchard Parks, and the open space and trails to the south near the river. Just to continue with some context on the application, this slide includes some pictures of the site and the surrounding area taken earlier this year. The upper left shows the existing 1.5-story dwelling. The upper right shows the property looking north from Garden Avenue. But the bottom left is our neighbors across the street, and the bottom right is Glen Gardens development located just to the north of the subject property. This slide shows the development proposal that was submitted to the city back in March. The proposal is for a private road development, as Alexander mentioned, which is for 3 blocks of stacked townhouses. The development would have one driveway from Garden Avenue that would lead to an interior parking area. 2 of the 3 blocks would face interior to the site, and 1 of the blocks would face Garden Avenue. Each of the squares within the blocks represents 2 townhouse units that would be stacked on top of each other. 1 unit would occupy the ground floor and basement. The ground floor units would have an outdoor amenity area to the rear. Upper units would occupy the 2nd and 3rd floors and would have their amenity areas provided on balconies. The ground floor units are approximately 750 square feet, which doesn't include the basement, and the upper units are approximately 1,700 square feet. In total, the development concept includes 58 parking spaces for the 32 dwelling units. Private waste collection is proposed from the interior of the site. I should mention that we've now received comments from the city and agencies on the development application, and we're in the process of looking at modifying the plan to respond to these comments. Some of the changes that we're contemplating include replacing some parking with an amenity area, adding some accessible parking, changing the waste collection area, and possibly reconfiguring some of the sidewalks throughout the site. This slide shows the front and rear elevations of the proposed units. I should note that these have changed slightly from our original submission. As you can see, the units are modern in their design and would be constructed primarily of high quality masonry brick with stone accents above the doors, with a high proportion of windows on both the front and rear of the units. As Alexander mentioned, the purpose of this application is to change the zoning of the property. The property is currently zoned R4A, which permits block townhouse dwellings among other medium density types of housing and seniors residence. However, the zone does not specifically permit stacked townhouses, which are proposed. A site-specific zoning is requested for the property to allow for stacked townhouses and to permit certain site-specific regulations that will permit the development of the plan as shown. The development of this site is proceeding in steps. Our first step is to establish permissions to use the site for stacked townhouses, and that is what is being pursued through this zoning bylaw amendment. Our next step will be to embark on site plan approval. It's through this process that the detailed engineering design of the site is completed and approval for servicing is obtained. Following the site plan approval, we intend to pursue a draft plan of condominium in order to establish the tenure for the site. And finally, the final step will be construction of the private road, services, and buildings on the site. Earlier this week, planning staff shared with me some comments and questions that had been received from the residents, from 4 residents that had expressed an interest in the project. I've briefly summarized the comments as I understand them to be, and I'm going to attempt to address them now. One of the residents expressed some concern that the site is being developed in a fashion that would cater to new residents to Brantford, and that the city should instead focus on housing existing residents, including those that may find it difficult to find housing currently. I should mention that this project doesn't discriminate between existing or new residents to Brantford, and in fact is geared towards providing a more affordable housing option. While it may not meet the strict definition of being affordable in the context of provincial policy, it will provide a more affordable option than traditional ground-based products. One other resident expressed concern regarding the building aesthetic and fit. While the building design is not yet finalized, the architect has done their best to include context-sensitive, modern design that includes high-quality building materials. In terms of fit, the neighborhood is in an area of transition with a variety of land uses and a mix of old and new. It's the project team's belief that the addition of this housing form will complement that community. One resident expressed concern regarding noise from new residents. Townhouses are currently permitted at this location, and the development of townhouses adjacent to existing residential development, including other townhouses, is not anticipated to result in any unusual noise impacts that will be experienced by the residents in this area. Some residents identified concerns with traffic and parking. The development proposal submitted includes significantly more parking than is required by the city as a means to ensure that there are no parking impacts from this development. In terms of traffic, the owner commissioned a traffic impact study that was completed by a professional engineer at the city's request. The study assessed possible traffic impacts from the development on the surrounding area. The traffic study concludes that the development can proceed without any negative traffic impacts or requirements for intersection or road improvements. Some concern was expressed regarding speeding in the area. I'm familiar with this section of Garden Avenue and can appreciate this concern. Notwithstanding, this matter is really unrelated to the consideration of a zoning amendment that would permit a different form of townhouses that is to those currently permitted. One resident questioned how the building facing Colburn Street would fit within the frontage. To answer this, I'll offer some technical information on the development. The site is about 145 feet wide. The townhouse fronting Garden Avenue is slightly more than 100 feet wide. This leaves room for a 10-foot setback between the townhouse and the north property line, and about 30 feet for the driveway and landscaping to the south side of the townhouse. One resident asked if this application would remove the holding provision from another property in the area. Simply put, no, it will not. This zoning amendment is specific to 9 Garden Avenue and does not apply to other properties in the area. One resident asked for some clarification on building setbacks, height, unit sizes, and tenure. While the site plan includes most of these details, for clarity, I offer the following. The townhouses will be set back 6 meters or about 20 feet from the front property line. This actually puts this townhouse about 40 feet from the sidewalk on Garden Avenue. All townhouses will be set back a minimum of 7.5 meters or 25 feet from the other property lines, with the exception of the side of the townhouse to the north property line, which will be set back 3 meters or 10 feet. For clarity, the buildings will be 3 stories or about 37 feet from the ground to the roof peak. And as I mentioned earlier, the ground floor units, not including the basement, will be about 750 square feet or about 1,400 square feet if you include the basement. Upper floor units will be about 1,700 square feet. And as I mentioned, the architectural renderings show that the buildings will be constructed primarily of brick. In summary, the purpose of our application is to permit stacked townhouses at 9 Garden Avenue and add some site-specific zoning regulations to permit the 32-unit private road development on this site. We believe this is an appropriate development proposal for the area that provides a more affordable housing form than what has traditionally been available. The zoning amendment will be subject to a public meeting at council in October and a recommendation report shortly after. The application to establish stacked townhouses as a permitted use is the first step in a series of steps for the redevelopment of this property. We look forward to working with the city and community on this project moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Alexander, is there more from planning or?
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter and Matt. At this point, we would take any comments and questions from the public on the application, and that will provide both Matt and I the opportunity to provide answers.
Okay, Alexander, just before we do that, is this application is strictly a zoning change application? There isn't a request for reduced setbacks or anything like that the public should be aware of?
The zoning application does include amendments of that nature. It is just a zoning bylaw amendment at this time, and no official plan amendment application is required.
Can you explain that to the public, what that means to the public, for the public that's listening?
Sure. So at this time, the property is designated neighborhoods residential designation in the city's new official plan, and with that designation permits a variety of residential uses, including development of townhouses. So at this time, the applicant is requesting a zoning amendment to permit those 32 units within stacked townhouse built form. At this time, the zoning bylaw does not have a definition for stacked towns, but that is coming to council shortly, and should be if approved by council, would be approved prior to this application. So at this point, the applicant is applying to permit that stacked townhouse use, and with that, because stacked townhouses are currently being defined in the zoning bylaw, all the regulations regarding stacked townhouses would be then through a site-specific zoning for the property. So this zoning bylaw amendment would establish those requirements for stacked townhouses specifically for this lot.
Okay, so just to be clear to the public, then the stacked townhouse amendment to the bylaw that's coming forward, if approved by council, will mean that any place where townhouses are allowed, stacked townhouses will also be allowed.
Through Councillor Carpenter, at this time, I think from my understanding of the zoning bylaw technical amendment, the stacked townhouse use will be a defined use. However, it won't be permitted in each zone, and an application would have to be made for a zoning bylaw amendment in order to permit that use on a location, such as this example.
It's just recognizing them. Okay, thank you. And you're going to take the questions because you've got the list. I have a list too, but I don't know who's got their hand up. You can see that. So you go ahead with your questions from the public. Thank you. Councillor Toski, did you have something you wanted to add at this point?
I just wanted to add a little bit of clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Alexandra, and I remember what it was like listening to this stuff at the beginning. So right now, in terms of anything being written out in our zoning, stacked townhouses do not exist in that verbiage anywhere, regardless of 9 Garden, correct?
At this time, there are examples within the city where it's been specifically defined, but at this time, the zoning bylaw does not define the use. It is coming.
I'm sorry. Each of them had to go through this process, but once we define and once we put that in, then there's no amendment being required at that point. So this is because it's a new built form, a relatively new built form, and it's really just updating things, correct?
So yes, in the sense that it will then be defined. However, at this point, I don't think we're adding the stacked townhouse use to specific zones, so they will have to go through the same process as this if they want that built form at this time.
All right, and well, I'll let others, I've got some questions, but I'll let others ask their questions first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
We have our first question from the public. If you'd like to go ahead, Brenda.
Am I muted or unmuted?
No,
You're
we can
unmuted.
hear you. Yes, you can go ahead with your question. We can hear you.
Thank you. Can
You're welcome.
somebody please clarify affordable housing for me, that term? What is affordable?
Well, I'll try and speak to that, Brenda. Affordable housing is a provincial term. This is not affordable housing, as Matt has already said. The affordable housing term, it's a misnomer in itself, because affordable housing starts at $1,050 a month. I don't know how that's affordable for those on tiered income or low income. So that's affordable housing, but this is not an affordable housing development. That helps.
Oh, okay, then I apologize, because when I first heard Matt, I thought he did say it was affordable housing.
No, he was suggesting that, because I think he was suggesting, I won't put words in his mouth, that the 750 square foot unit is pretty, a smaller unit would be more affordable to buy.
Okay.
Right.
My second question, if it's okay. I'm under the impression that we get our water from the Grand River, correct?
Yes.
Now, all this housing that's going on in Brant County, plus what's going on around us here on Garden Ave, is this going to affect our water supply at all with all this new housing coming into Brant County?
Brenda, I don't think the developer can speak to that, but I will speak to it as a city councilor. We have some of the best water, drinkable, potable water in Southern Ontario. I know a lot of people in Paris will beg to differ, but Paris water is very hard. Paris gets their water from ground, and we get not from the Grand River. We get our water from the Grand River, and our water treatment plant has significant capacity in it. In fact, enough capacity for all the new lands that have come in under our jurisdiction in the previous act. So we know we've got lots of water, and some of the best, actually, Brenda.
Okay, nope, then that's fine. Thank you for clarifying that. My one and last, will there be any speed bumps, stop signs, or anything put on Garden Ave? Because I'm tired of these cars racing by my house. I'm right across from 9.
I know where you are. Okay,
Yeah, I know you do.
Cheryl, yeah, but if we're looking at a stop sign already at Gray Street. In fact, the questionnaire is going out, and Cheryl and I are looking at putting speed bumps similar to what we've done on Johnson Road on Garden.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're looking at a different style, but similar to, and we're going to update the truck route to stop those trucks that shouldn't be there as well. That's part of what the ward councilors are working on.
Yeah, good luck on that one. Oh, one more. Sorry. What is the start time for construction? Is there a start time, like 7, 8 o'clock?
Matt, that's you. Oh, and construction time when during the day. Okay, and quitting time.
Yeah, through you, Councillor. If the answer is about the time that construction would start on a clock.
Yes.
Right. So generally speaking, and I'm not familiar with the City of Brantford's noise bylaw, but construction is generally prohibited before 7:30 a.m. in my experience in most jurisdictions. So we'd be obligated to comply with any noise bylaw that's in place, and I suspect that it wouldn't be before 7:30 a.m.
Okay, if that's the bylaw, I guess that's acceptable. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Brenda, pre-construction, it's always a good idea to take pictures of your house, your drywall, and in case you think there's some concerns, but you have some pre-pictures and some after pictures in case there's any issues. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
Okay, Alexander, or Barb, who do we have next, Barb?
Okay, thank you, Brenda. And now we have Tamara would like to speak. Go ahead, Tamara.
Hello, councillors. Hi, Alexandra. Tamara Capoli here, so owner of 11 Garden Ave, so the neighbor to the north. I just had a couple of questions just because we're in the same zoning. I was the one that originally submitted the question about the H in the zoning requirement. Of course, our property is zoned the same, as well as the property at, I believe, 7 Garden Ave and 1020 to 1024 Colburn Street. Just wondering how that's affecting those properties. Like this is the big monkey in the middle right now with this property. So how is that H going to be affecting our properties going forward if it remains on there? And why is this one being removed in the first place? It wasn't removed for the condo development up the road. Takers, Alexandra?
Thank you, Tamara, for your question. So this application is specific to 9 Garden Ave, so the removal of the holding is an application that is being put forward by the applicant at this time. previous applications, such as the one at, I think you're referencing 50 Garden Ave at just kind of almost kitty corner to this property?
No,
Just north?
actually, like, yeah, I think it was 50 or 41 Garden Ave. It's the one right by the train tracks. Like, it's just north of, or it's just the ones just south of the train tracks. So the condo development right there.
So ultimately, the reasons for holding provisions is, in this case, specific to this lot for the development of this lot being removed in that sense. The holding provision from the 41 Garden Ave has been removed, and that was again through that development process for that lot.
Yeah.
So when you come forward, or if anyone comes forward for development and there's a holding on that lot, through the process of rezoning or through site plan, we would look at the property and the proposed development that is going forward and ensure that it meets the requirements to remove that holding, and then that holding removal would go forward to committee of the whole or council as an application to remove that holding. So at this time, this holding removal is part of that zoning bylaw application that the applicant has applied for, and any holding provisions on different individual lots would be removed via that application and the development of that lot if changing.
So another $5,200 per lot.
The
Yeah. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to get across is that, you know, you're taking 9 out of the holding pattern and leaving 7 and 1022, 2024. Like, those ones all will have to apply and have a $5,200 application fee going forward, right?
So the holding provision is typically with the individual lots when they're being developed. So that provides the opportunity for the city to ensure that these lots are being developed to the city's standard and engineering standards, and that the requirements are being met. And as there's no development proposed at those lots at this time, the holding would stay until those applications come forward for development, if they were to come forward.
Okay. I also had another question about, because I'm the neighbor to the north, so a 10-foot setback on a stacked townhouse. Since we don't really have a definition on what a stacked townhouse is yet, do we have a rough idea of what lot coverage and max height are going to be for those units?
Yes, I would pass that question on to the applicant to discuss the built form and the setbacks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. I caught the first part of it, which was regarding lot coverage. So the standard requirement for lot coverage for block townhouses is generally about 40%. We are sitting currently right now down around 29. And I beg your pardon, can you repeat the second component of your question?
Yeah, max height for the buildings?
So max height, we're at 3 stories, and there's a low pitched roof that from grade to peak is about 37 feet.
Are we looking at any rooftop patios, or is it going to be decks?
So sorry, I'm not sure if this is a normal way of dialoguing through this meeting, but I'm used to speaking.
It's an informal session.
It is, Matt. It's okay.
Sorry, I'm used to speaking through the chair, but so our initial submission to the city was to have some rooftop amenity areas, but our revised submission, which I shared with you this evening in the presentation, has since removed those rooftop amenity areas. So our intention, to answer your question directly, no, our intention is not to have rooftop amenity areas.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mary.
you. And I don't see any further questions from the public at this time. Oh, Brenda. Brenda has another question, and Dave and Eric. So we'll hear from Eric first. If you'd like to go ahead, Eric.
Just unmute yourself, Eric.
Sorry, I thought I did.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. The zoning bylaw currently does not allow a stacked townhouse, but it does allow townhouses. What height of a building would be allowed in the current bylaw for the zoning? Would it be limited to 2-story as opposed to 3?
Alexandra, can you answer that one?
Sorry, I've got 3 screens up. Try and find my mouse. Sorry about that. So the current zoning permits 3-story height. So
Okay.
that would be permitted.
Okay. Are these units going to be condominiums or rental units, or are they going to be sold as townhouses to a purchaser?
I would give
Go
that
ahead,
question to Matt.
So they could be both. They will be condominium units for sure. But there is nothing stopping somebody who purchases one of those condominium units from renting it out. But I can confirm that it is the developer's intention to condominiumize this development so they can be sold off unit by unit.
Okay. Do you have a approximate price range of what these units would be priced at in the market?
So there will be 2 different price points. The ground floor / basement units will be the cheaper of the 2. They will, in today's dollars, start in the 300,000s. The upper floor units being significantly larger and more desirable, having sort of double the square footage above ground, will be in the neighborhood of the 400,000s in today's dollars. So as I mentioned, while not by definition affordable housing, the intention is to provide a more affordable housing option for a new dwelling than is typically provided.
Okay. For another question, for perimeter fencing around the property, how tall will any fencing be, and what design and material will it be made of?
So we'll be required to comply with the city's site plan control guidelines. For the vast majority of the site, there will be a 1.8 meter or 6 foot tall fence. Typically, my experience is we provide a board on board fence with a decorative post cap. The only exception to that would be closest to Garden Avenue in the site triangles to the driveway. There wouldn't be a fence, or there'd be a fence of a significantly reduced height for the first 15 feet or so back from the property line.
Okay, I would just have a concern with the height of a 6 foot fence when you're talking of a 3-story building. I think a little higher fence, maybe as high as what the city would allow, would be a better fit. However, that's something to be discussed. And you said you had made some changes on the the location of the curbside or the garbage and recycling collection. Where will the bins be located on the property?
So we're still in the process of finalizing that. Since we've submitted our application, or maybe it occurred slightly before, the provincial waste regulations have changed, and we now need to provide a 4-stream collection for our development. So that's required us to look for some more space on site in order to provide that. I can't say for sure because we're responding to the comments that we've received from city staff relatively recently, and we haven't even had the opportunity to finalize our site plan with the owner as of yet, just because of how fresh those comments are. But our intention is in the next couple of weeks to prepare a fulsome response to the comments we received in advance of this meeting from the public, the comments we received from the agencies, and also the comments we received this evening, and provide some revised plans to the city for their consideration in advance of that public meeting in October. So my anticipation is that at that public meeting in October, we will have the finalized location of those and other things as well.
Okay, now, if I heard it right, did you say it was going to be a private collection? Garbage collection in that, or it's not going to be city curbside collection?
That's correct. Our intention would be to have private collection.
Okay, and what about the I know Councillor Carpenter said the water is readily available to service this. What about sewers? And where would the connection be? Would it be connected to sewer on Garden Ave, or?
Yes, there'll be a singular sewer connection to Garden Ave that would be in approximately the location of the private road connection to Garden Ave as well.
Okay, and then one last comment I've got is the existing condominiums at 43 Garden Ave and then 1030 Colburn Street East, and they actually border on the eastern side of the proposed development, and 1038 Colburn Street East. They're all single story and blend in well with the surrounding properties. Was a development such as this considered for the property instead of the proposed 3-story units?
To answer your question plainly, no. This site is fairly limited in terms of its area, and the concept that the developer has come up with requires something a bit more compact in order to make this work.
So there's going to be 32 units. That's one family per unit. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, we can't regulate family composition in units, but the intent would be to, yes, each unit would be sold to one property owner.
Okay, so the ground floor would be one unit and the upper floor would be a second unit.
Okay, so I beg your pardon. I'll answer that quickly, but yes, so the ground floor and the basement would be one unit. The second and the third floor would be a second. But Mr. Mira, who owns the property, has asked if he could weigh in on this particular question.
I seen him try. Go ahead, Dino.
Yes, thank you very much. Basically, the ones, I think the corner on Gray's and Gray Street, I think it is, and Garden Avenue, Cara Homes, he's got 72 units, and they're approximately, I would say, roughly about 35 feet in height, and they're only 16 feet wide. So this 3-story theme is already well established in that area. And I'd like to mention that as far as affordability is concerned, those properties are north of me, which are really nice, don't get me wrong. Today's land prices don't lend itself to be affordable at all. They would probably start in the neighborhood of what? I can't venture to guess anymore because the market is so crazy. But the single detached they're almost like single detached are a thing of the past unless you go further out into the country for affordability is concerned. In today's market, there's just very few of them around. That's all I have to say. What about you?
Eric, you have the floor now.
Yeah, I'm done, but I guess with the 3 buildings is going to be 32 units. So I guess I'm a little confused with the upper and lower. So if you go in, do you go in the same door to go to the upper and lower?
Okay, actually, the units are 20 feet wide, okay? So
Yeah.
in the first floor, okay, on the left side, there's a door of that unit. It goes into the one floor plan, okay?
Okay, yeah,
On the right side, if we can call it the same unit, if you'd like, it's the same unit, basically, is another set of doors with a staircase with, you know, closet, et cetera, on the first floor, but the staircase going right up to the second floor. So the second and third floor become the second unit on that 20-foot wide lot. Okay?
okay,
That makes sense. Now, I designed in such a way that the first floor, you can probably, because most of them don't know how to have basements. If you look at that property on Grays and Grays and Garden Avenue, they don't have a basement, okay? I decided to put a basement in because, first of all, it's more solid. Second of all, I put a window in there so you could have some sunlight, and you can expand to about at least 400 square feet because, you know, you got to have room for utilities, et cetera. So you can have a nice unit, 1,200 square feet living area all day long and still be affordable. And in today's terms, excuse me, can I mention that in today's terms, and you still have be pretty good. Now, the second and third floor is considerably bigger, okay? Most units don't show 3 bedrooms. I have 3 bedrooms, which I think I'm crazy I did that. But anyway, 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. I mean, these things, if they were in any town, let's say outside of Brantford, let's say, because I'm from Burlington and Waterdown area, they'd go in the range of 700,000 minimum. Okay, so I think I'm going to give people good value for their money. Okay, I really believe that in today's dollars. Okay, but to explain that, I hope I've been helpful to answer your question.
yeah, I think that's fine, Dino.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Eric. And
Okay.
now we'll hear from Dave McCabe. If you'd like to go ahead, Dave.
Yes, thank you, councillors and Alexandra. I'm basically going to shadow Eric as we are neighbors, and our concerns are basically to the same as our backyards back onto this new development, and the fence being, you know, pretty important. Just, you know, it's a quality and privacy of our lives on both sides and the back. So having somebody at that hearing level, you know, it's a little invasive or on privatizing. Other than that, you know, Eric is, we were all kind of sharing the same concerns as far as you know, the anticipate what's going to be coming and is there any timeline on when this project is going to actually break ground?
So I can offer a generalized comment on that, and maybe I'll call on Mr. Mira to supplement that. The planning process is not exactly lightning fast. The zoning is the first process that we need to make our way through, and you know, I think at this point we're working on about looking to see that be considered by council in approximately November.
Okay.
Following that, we have a site plan with approval process, which is the detailed design of the site, and also a draft plan of condominium process and registration as well. So there are still some planning processes we need to make our way through, which I would suggest would take approximately a year in the best case. And then the servicing and other construction would follow that. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say Mr. Mira is anxious to get on with this. But you know, my suggestion to you is that it's probably a year away in my experience, and based on, you know, how busy I know Brantford is, as all municipalities are in southwestern Ontario. It's pretty tough slugging to move things through the system these days. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I that pretty well summarizes. We had discussed a few things in it, and I've gotten some answers too. So I'm satisfied with that. So then there will be more meetings, as far as, because I know that there are some properties just down the road from us that their fences are, you know, 7 foot with lattice, I believe. I'd have to check that again, but whatever the city bylaw recommends, I would ask that it be put to its max.
Thank you, Dave. And yes, to answer your first question, there will be more meetings. This zoning bylaw amendment application will go forward to the committee of the whole and council.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, you're in the neighborhood, so you would be within the 120 meter notice area. So you will get notice of the meeting prior to it going forward. And if you want to provide comments to the committee of the whole and council, then you'd have that opportunity as well. And this is just the first step of many before it goes forward. So, and in regards to the fence bylaw, there are regulations under the fence bylaw for height, for a maximum interior, exterior, and side yard and rear. That is a permitted height of 2.2 meters, and that would be decided typically through the site plan process.
Okay, what's 2.2 meters?
I believe 2.3 is 8 feet.
Okay, perfect. Okay. No, I appreciate it. The time, councillors and Alexander and Matt and all the neighbors.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. We're going to hear from Mary Lou Rudder next, but if you've already spoke and you don't have any further questions, I see quite a few raised hands still. So you just click on the hand to take it down if you don't have any further questions. And now we'll hear from Mary Lou. Go ahead, please, Mary Lou.
Yes, it's been interesting. My concern is, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this properly. My property is east of in the condos east of the current property that we're talking about, and so there's 32 units, but that's really 64 units because there's two housing in each unit. Is that right?
No, that's not correct. So there's 32 units. Sorry. No, that's it's not correct. There's 32.
Because you've got a block of 10.
So there's 2 blocks of 10 and 1 block of 12.
Okay, but so say unit 1. So 1 and 2, that is 2 units then for the upper and the lower?
My name is Mr. Mira. If I could answer that quite simply, just regard it as 16 units, period. Because every unit has 2.
That's right. That's what I was looking at. Did it mean there was 64 units really, with it being stacked? Yes, that answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the other with the talking again about the fence, and you said the set back of the property is going to be 7 foot from the current fence line. Is that right?
No, wait a minute. The setbacks from the builds are usually 25 feet. Okay, from the from this, the back of the property and the front, etc. The only time it's less than that is on the side. For example,
Okay.
the first 10, that's about it. But 25 feet everywhere.
Oh,
And-
I picked up from
and
Matt
this-
that it was 7.
No, it is. Well, maybe you did pick up, I'm saying no.
Yeah.
I wish I could
Okay,
get more units,
so
but I
it's-
can't.
It's 25 feet then from the back fence line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And
it's-
again,
and-
I would want the highest fence pot because that you've got balconies that are encroaching on the privacy of single family homes all along that back fence, the whole width of the property.
But like I was saying before, maybe 3-story is not unusual today's thing. So
But
they're not like
most-
skyscrapers, but I understand, I can share your concern, but in all honesty, whether the fence is 7 feet or 6 feet, people can still see. But the thing is this, the setback is there. So, they're not on top of you, they're further away. So hopefully there's some privacy that way, okay?
Yes.
And I do have green space, so I think it's a very nice unit, very nice layout, but then I'm prejudiced, okay?
Well, I'm prejudiced. I know you're a developer and I know you have to make the most of the property, but I'm prejudiced because the birds and the squirrels and the deer and everything else that wander back through there, they enjoy it too.
Yeah, you're right. I wish everybody thought like that. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I like green space too.
But that's the part that we're going to lose. And I know that it is allowed for 3-story townhomes already that could be built there. But going to the stacked townhomes creates a whole different problem because it raises it higher. So I'm going to have that building 30 feet above the fence.
Well, what I
That's
was
it.
trying to say is stacked is just a name, but a 3-story regular townhome and the stack are the same height.
Yes.
So whatever you see 3-story would be exactly what I have.
You don't have balconies on a regular 3-story townhome.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but yes, you have a certain point.
Yeah.
But it depends how they're made, but yes, can be either way. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
But like I said,
that's what I'm saying there. That's where the change in zoning changes the privacy of the area. That's all I'm pointing out, that if they were a regular 3-story townhome, there would be no balcony and privacy issue. Yes, there would be a big building there, but there would be no privacy issue.
Yeah.
That's just my point that I wanted to make. And that's it.
Thank you, Mary Lou. And I believe Brenda Berry has another question. If you'd like to go ahead, Brenda.
No, sorry, I guess I had my hand up and didn't need to.
Okay, all right. And Eric, did you have another question, Eric?
No, I'm fine. I guess I could make one point. The fence at 1030 Colburn Street that faces Colburn Street, that's the condominium units, it's 8 feet tall. I wouldn't mind seeing 8 feet along the property line of this development as well. And that's all I've got.
Okay, I don't see any further questions from the public, Alexandra.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Antosky and Councillor Carpenter, Matt and Dino for joining us for this public meeting tonight. Councillor Antosky, would you like to
Councillor Toski has some questions.
ask some questions?
Thank you. I have a couple. Some of them have been answered already. And I know this is a bit early. This is more of a site plan. But based on the design here, it looks like there's no snow storage. So I would assume that snow removal is anticipated?
I will pass that question on to the applicant or the owner.
So that's a very good question. Snow storage is typically done at the end of turnarounds, as is in the southeast portion of the site. But certainly that's something that we'll take a closer look at through the site plan review process.
All right, as long as we know there's enough room and that we're not encroaching on parking spots come winter time, because that tends to happen from time to time. And Alexandra, this is a question for you, and it may be moot. If there is anyone on this call that is outside of the 120 meters, will they still get notification like we would in an in-person? Because you've got their emails. They're obviously showing some interest and should be kept apprised of each step of the process.
Yes, so I can include them, and if I don't have their address, I can reach out to the members who joined tonight to get their address to ensure that they are sent the public meeting notice.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. All my other questions have been answered so far.
Thank you, Councillor.
I believe Councillor Carpenter has a question.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions that were raised from the residents, but that raised other ones for me. To the developer, I don't think you have a problem with going from a 6-foot to an 8-foot fence. That's not an issue, is it? Dino or Matt?
I don't see much of an issue. I mean,
Yeah.
depending what the city will allow, but I want to answer that one question about the fence, what I would like to do. I got some beautiful trees, if you noticed, on that property. And I like to keep them, but unfortunately I can't because I got to put a fence. So some of those trees have got to come down, which I hate to come. The one up right on the border of both properties.
Yeah. And Dino, are you looking at, there's the landscaping strip to the south part of the property that butts onto Eric and I believe Dave's property. Is there that planting strip, or is there going to plant something along there, maybe like cedar hedges or something like that?
I would anticipate that that's precisely what we would be doing in that landscape strip along the south property line, would be planting trees. And that's something that the city requires us to prepare a landscape plan that is done by a licensed landscape architect as part of the site plan approval process. So they'll be reviewing that as part of that.
Okay, all right, that's great. And Dino, I want to congratulate you for putting the basements in. I think that makes the lower unit much more amenable to people. And but I would like to ask you this, though, as condominium development, can you make sure that the window that's in the basement is proper window for egress?
Well, what do you mean? You mean for
Yeah.
So the window well, there'll be a window well, of course. So you can when you put the grade.
And the actual size of the window has to be, there's a certain diameter dimension that window would need to be for egress. So that would allow the building code allow someone to say, for example, put a bedroom in the basement or a den.
Yeah, well, yes, you have to follow the building code. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just a lot of times that gets forgotten in condominium developments, and then it's a big expense later on. So it doesn't cost very little for it's minuscule when you do it during development. That's why I like to raise it here.
Well, nothing is minuscule, but yeah, it's better if done from the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that. That's all the questions I have for now. Timelines coming forward. I think staff have already explained those, and that we would have further meetings. Okay, that's it for me. Councillor Toski, did anything else come up for you?
No, I think I've got everything, and barring seeing Alexandra or Matt that have anything else to say, we can close out the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for attending. You can always contact our planning department, Alexandra, Councillor Carpenter, or myself as we progress. You've heard tonight that you'll be kept in the loop, but if time goes by and you're wondering what's going on, or you think of another question after this, which always happens, you'll go to sleep tonight and have some more questions, please contact us. We'll do our best to get a timely response back to you. And again, thank you for being part of the process.
I'm so sorry, Cheryl. I just thought of one question.
Yeah.
So, Dino, Was there any thought of developing the property in conjunction with the property north to make a bigger, better site?
And maybe share an amenity space.
Not at this time, no.
Okay, now is the condo going to be developed so that in the future, if there was a development on that site, they would be complementary? Is that why you've got the road sort of ending inside there, that they could actually fold into another one, for example? Maybe Matt?
Well, no,
Yeah,
not
you bet.
really, but if anything is doable, but no, that was my main concern is it was for parking, okay? And actually to answer their snow removal, because a lot of times the snow removal, they only do that when it's extreme amount of snow, but a lot of times they would put in an empty parking spot.
On
So
the end
I like
part.
to, yeah, empty parking spot normally near the end. So I would like to have, I like to keep the same amount of parking spaces, but we'll see from there.
Okay, and I'd just like to let you know that we have a condominium association in Brantford, probably one of the best in the province of condos, and I sit on that board, and I'd help develop it. But I know this about condos, about the snow storage. So I would recommend that when we look at fencing, we don't look at your typical 4x4 fence. We look at a commercial kind of grade fence, because the snow will quickly push those over when they get put in the end. And if it's commercial grade, it'll last longer. And the condominium owners will be ones responsible for replacing it. And just to,
No, I'll keep that in mind. Yes.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Just if I may, sorry, I don't mean to steal the last word.
No,
I hope I
all right.
don't. But the terminus of both the driveways at the northern ends, there's quite a large area of landscaped amenity space. So I believe that is an opportunity for snow storage as well. And I should add also that part of the reason why the site was designed the way it was through preliminary consultation with city staff. There was an expressed desire to have to not preclude the possibility of connections to the north, and that was done intentionally.
Okay, I thought so. Thank you. Cheryl actually has the last one. My word, but Councilor Toski.
Well, I think I had the last word. We'll just close off. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been informative, and as you can see here, questions will continue to percolate. So be in touch with us. Thank you, Matt and Alexandra, and thanks for getting us started, Councillor Carpenter. Have a great evening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing how things move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.